This spell in Elden Ring sucks ass. I am convinced that darkness is single-handedly the worst spell in Elden Ring. If you don't know what darkness is, it's a spell that essentially acts as a smokescreen. You throw out some fog and enemies don't see you for a couple of seconds. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Like it sounds like it's kinda useful. But in practice, it's just not practical at all. In fact, I have never heard a single person ever talk about this spell, probably because it's so goddamn bad. Now originally, the way I thought darkness worked was that you would throw out some fog, you stand in it, and enemies can't see you if you're standing in it for a couple of seconds. Now darkness actually does not work like that at all. The way darkness actually works is that you throw the fog at the enemy, and when they get hit by it, they can't see you for maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Now this does give you enough time to get a free backstab, but this just seems so pointless. Like instead of walking up to an enemy and slapping him across the face with some fart gas, couldn't you just crouch and go behind him then backstab him if you really want to backstab? Better yet, you could just grab a sleep arrow or a sleep pot or even the Saint Trina sword and do the exact same thing. Now the difference between darkness and sleep is the fact that sleep lasts way longer and is just way more useful. Not to mention with darkness, you have to be up in an enemy's face to actually hit them with the fog since the range is so bad. Like this incantation is basically a Walmart version of sleep. It's just sleep, but shittier. You're also actually not guaranteed a backstab every time. If the enemy can't get backstabbed, you're not getting one. This is another reason why sleep is just 10,000 times better than darkness. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I tested out darkness and sleep on these trolls. The differences between the two will become very clear. So when you hit something like a troll with darkness, you actually don't get a critical hit, because you can't backstab them. Okay, so you can't get a free critical hit using darkness on a troll. Whatever, you're just gonna go ahead and melee them, right? Wrong. You hit them once, guess what? The troll can magically see you now, and you're getting clapped. So the only benefit you really get from blinding a troll with darkness is the fact that you get maybe one free R1 or a free R2 on them. This is not at all practical, especially with the fact that darkness takes kinda long to cast and it takes quite a bit of FP. Now let me show you what sleep can do. So in these clips, I'm using a +9 Saint Trina sword. The weapon art for the Saint Trina sword is extremely similar to darkness, but instead of just blinding them, it actually builds up sleep and infuses the weapon with sleep. Now I'm pretty sure everyone can already tell the difference by just looking at this clip. Instead of the troll just not being able to see me, he actually falls down and goes to sleep, giving me a free critical hit. And when I do a critical hit on him, he wakes up, he goes back to sleep because the sword is infused with sleep, and it builds up again, and then I get another free critical hit, and I can just keep doing this over and over. Using the weapon art for the Saint Trina sword also takes way less FP than it would to cast one darkness. So if you couldn't tell, sleep is pretty much better than darkness in every single possible way. In fact, it makes darkness obsolete. When I said darkness was essentially just sleep but a lot shittier, I was not joking. It really is just sleep but bad. Now if you still have a lot of faith in this darkness spell, you know, you're like, well, maybe it works on more enemies than sleep does. Sleep doesn't work on a lot of bosses, and maybe darkness does. No, it doesn't. Sleep also has the edge when it comes to boss fights. Now obviously sleep doesn't work on a lot of major bosses, otherwise it would just be too broken, but it does work on a good amount of bosses. If a boss can't be put to sleep, they usually at least get stunned for a little. Darkness just straight up does not work in a lot of boss fights. In fact, I have not seen one where it does work. Granted, I did only test out darkness on 3 bosses, Tree Sentinel, Radagon, and Melania, and it didn't work on a single one, while sleep did work on Tree Sentinel, but obviously not Melania and Radagon. Going off this information, we can assume sleep works on way more bosses than darkness does, if darkness even works on any boss at all. Even if darkness does work on a boss, it's still not very beneficial to use it, since the moment you hit them, they will be able to see you again, while sleep will put them through an animation before they can hit you again. Like, why is darkness even a thing to begin with? We have sleep, why do we have a worse version of it as a spell. I'm really hoping darkness gets a buff or a rework, just like a lot of the shittier sorcery spells did in the last update, because I really want this spell to be good. It's great in concept, but it's just bad. It's literally just sleep, but worse. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but that is quite literally what it is. As of now, darkness has absolutely zero reason to exist. There is just no point at all. Strictly talking about PvE, by the way, it could be good in PvP. I wouldn't know, I haven't tried it. An easy way to make darkness a lot better and more useful would be to make it do what I originally thought it did. You throw down some fog, you stand in it, and no enemy can see you anymore. They lose aggro, and that's it. That would make darkness so much more unique, and it wouldn't be just a shittier version of sleep anymore. This is all strictly my opinion, by the way. Maybe there's a lot of darkness users or darkness fans out there that I don't know about, but from my personal experience and testing, darkness really does just seem like a useless spell that does not need to exist. We already have tons of different sleep items that can do the same thing but better. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much about it. I just wanted to talk about how useless this spell is, in my opinion. Darkness fans, if you're out there, please don't attack me, I'm sorry. But anyways, if you made it this far, thank you for watching, you're awesome. If you enjoyed, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.